Thank you to everyone out there for joining. Today, we are having our fifth webinar event out of 6. And today I'm joined by Thor Bruno, who will be doing most of the talking today. So, and to begin with, Thor will also manage the PowerPoint. So I'll just ask him to switch to the next page. And he
Let me
can
try.
introduce himself in 2 seconds. So, good. The agenda today is a bit different than it's been the other days. It won't be advanced today, or it might be advanced, but it won't be technical today. So it's a bit different. So we'll start by talking about Golden Path, what that is. And it is kind of a segue to next time, where we'll be talking about Tanzu application platform, which is the developer portal, and where Golden Path is quite important there. And then today, Thor, and that won't take long. And then today, Thor will talk about how path to production impacted Google Pay rating and increased sales in a major European supermarket. And I hope we'll be talking about yogurts and Google App Stores and stuff like that. I've heard Thor before, and I'm pretty sure it will be interesting. So if you jump to the next page.
Yes, sir.
He's normally not that cooperative. Just
no, but
information.
it's me on the right here, the confusing guy, the confused guy. That's like me.
Yeah. So the purpose of this webinar is still to give you all an introduction to cloud native concept and technologies. And the idea is to start basic and then turn it up a notch. And today will be a lot like that. So if you have any questions, then please don't use the chat. Use the Q&A function, because me and my partner in crime, Vesco, will monitor the Q&A, and we will interrupt Thor if there's any questions. And also, Thor actually said that if you have any questions, then just feel free to ask. I'm not 100% sure that you're all allowed to actually just turn on the mic and do something. But if you have a question, let us know in the Q&A, and we'll figure it out. So, or else we'll just ask this question. So then jump to the next one.
Yep, I like to be interrupted, so that's good.
Perfect. So, Golden Path. So what is that? So Golden Path, the way I read it anyway, was invented by Spotify. And Spotify back in 2014, as far as I can read, they had a hackathon, and or they call it something else, Hack Week or something like that. And what they did there was a couple of engineers sat down, and their hacking project actually ended up being Golden Path, which meant that they actually just documented the easiest way for a service or solution to get into production. So in basics, they just documented how they actually do things. And that turned out to be the Golden Path. It's not meant as this is the only way in any way, but it is by far the easiest way. And this has kind of this is a core way that Spotify works today. And next time we'll be talking a lot about Tanzu application platform, which is based on Backstage, which is invented by Spotify. And like in many other cases, the core thing here to take away is it's not about taking a piece of software and then making it fit to your business. Sometimes it's just as much as taking the business processes, looking at them, and actually making them fit together with a piece of software. And yeah, or else you either break the software, or you break the process. So, and the Golden Path is a really nice way to look at that. So, and it's a core feature, for example, in Backstage and Tanzu application platform. It's a core feature today that you document whatever you do, and that you have an easy way forward. Also, if you want to move things into production fast, and again, we are talking about maybe updating your application 10, 15, 20 times a day, then death by tickets won't cut it. So I used to work in a company where it took 5 days as a default to get anything done. You can't update your software 10 times a day if it takes 5 days to get a new network port or do some change. So you need to have some kind of approved way, and that's core to also to the golden path, that you have an approved way of putting things into production. You have people signing off, for example, security, saying if you follow this path and you do exactly this, then it's auto approved because it's within our boundaries and it's okay to move to the next point. So a really core feature. And again, this was just a teaser for next time, and I'll definitely mention the golden path a lot more. In the bottom here, there's a link to one of the blog posts that Spotify has. It's also on the last page of this presentation, which we'll share afterwards. And I do recommend to take a look at it. It is not technical in any way, but there's a lot of really interesting things that Spotify has done that allowed them to actually create a developer portal and start using it. So, but again, that's for next. Now it's all about yogurts, supermarkets, and Tor. So I will stop talking now and leave it to Tor.
Thank you very much, Robert. Good intro. And we all know Spotify. Well, 2 words about me. I've twice been a CIO in a manufacturing and in a retail company. And I was really annoyed with all these promises that the IT vendors were showing up. Oh, you will build plows faster. You can sell more t-shirts, whatever they were promising me with this software. And I was always asking, why, how, what do you mean? And I didn't get any clear answers. So I started digging into how do we convert the value of IT into something that the business wants? Because I was CIO in a manufacturing company. We made agricultural machinery, so plows and harvesters and stuff like that. And whenever I needed something for IT, I mean, I thought it was great to have the coolest new network or a faster switch or whatever it might be. And the financial controller would say, okay, I hear you. You want this toy. Why do you want it? And the question was always, how would we help the plow factory make better plows or make plows faster? Because nobody cared about IT. Nobody cared about the apps. What they cared about was produce plows, sell plows, so the farmers can grow more grain. And that took me a couple of years to understand that IT was not the core of it, but the welders in the factory, they were actually more important than me. So that sort of made me think, how do I take any IT project and link it to business value? How do I explain to the business people that IT is important, that IT will impact how many plows you make or how many t-shirts you sell or how much yogurt you can sell in your supermarket? These were the questions I started pondering on. So I created the process, and then I joined the ROI Institute, and I got some models approved by Forrester. They have this thing they call total economic impact. So maybe my methods are good. I've been doing this for 20 plus years, trying to find sanity. And as you can see on the picture in the lower right corner, I'm standing on the table while I'm talking to people. I sometimes do that. I usually make the people stand on the tables because it helps you get a different perspective, and we all need that. Anyway, business case or decision criteria, that's my world. And why would you follow Golden Path? Because you want your software out there faster, you want it out there in a better quality. But let's start out with some basics in business case world. What is a business case? What if we were selling floor washers to a hospital? I mean, they already have people washing the floors. Why would they need an electric floor washer? So you can look at it and say, well, we want to look at the total cost of ownership. So if we save 100 hours per week at a 1,500 euros, then we're going to save 150,000 euros per week on floor cleaning if we get the floor washer. So we can reduce the total cost of washing the floors. Now, the floor washer has a price. It costs 1.5 million. So that means when you've saved 150,000 on floor washing for 10 weeks, then you have your return on investment. So ROI, when is it worth it? Because if you take some of Robert's Tanzu stuff and you implement it and so on, it's not like you get it on the 1st of January and then you save 1 million on the 1st of January. You're going to get it on the 1st of January and then you're going to change your processes and how you work. And then sometimes maybe a year later or 6 months later, you are going to start becoming more efficient, more effective, and that's when the ROI happens. So these are two very important things. Total cost of ownership, we want to bring the cost down always. And the ROI is the reason why you want to make an investment. Now, this was terrible because I've only spoken about the technical side. Like if you buy a piece of software, why would you buy it? Because there's an ROI in 10 weeks or 6 months or whatever it is. For the airport nearby where I live, they're happy with 10 years of ROI, or they're happy every time a plane doesn't crash. So they have different ways of looking at this. But if we look at the hospital in a more holistic view, the floor washers the machine does a better job than the manual floor washer, which means they will increase the hygiene level, which then mean that people get less infections. That means they will be dismissed from hospital earlier and they will be readmitted more rarely. So that means the hospital will actually save 200 bed nights per week because of the increased hygiene levels. Now, that saves them 2 million euros per week in bed costs. And that's where you have the business case. Because who cares about an ROI in 10 weeks? You have to be financial controller to think it's fun to talk about total cost of ownership or return on investment. I want to look at the hospital and say, how do we make people better and how do we make that they don't come back because they are feeling better and they didn't get any infections? That's what we want to have in the calculation. And that's what I'm trying to do today. I'm going to talk about IT infrastructure and development teams in a supermarket chain and how that affects the sale of yogurt. First time I understood as a consultant how IT infrastructure may impact the business. That was a bank in Austria. So I talked to the bank and they said, every time the politicians make a new law about how we can lend money to people or businesses, we need to build a new application. Okay, that sounds fair. A new application took them 9 months to build. And out of those 9 months, 2 months were infrastructure work. So we designed an automated move from dev to test to pre-prod to production. And we actually cut most of those 2 months out of the development period. That means this bank got to market 2 months before their competitors with the new loaning application. And I was very young when we did this. And I thought, 2 months, cool. And the bank people, they looked at me and they said, we have moved 3% of the Austrian market for loaning money or for lending money because we got out 2 months earlier. We got first mover advantage. And I was like, okay, that actually sounds important. Let me look more into this. So here's the case of today. Big European supermarket chain, annual revenue of 84 million, number of stores, 3,300. They are in multiple countries. They have some threats. And by the way, it's probably not 84 million, it's 84 billion. So threats, they are under pressure from Amazon home deliveries, and they are not really good at personalizing their services. When I pick up my phone and I go into their supermarket, I want them to give me an offer for my favorite frozen pizza. They were not good at that. They knew I was in there. I had an app. I could do something. And so what? And when I enter the store, my app should tell me, I know which store you're in. Look to your left. Your favorite pizza is in the freezer. The app was doing okay with 3.5 stars, but they thought we could probably get better. Anyone using the phone app usually spend around 85 euros per week in the supermarket, and the customers who don't have the app, they only spend 45 euros per week, give and take. So if we can get another 700,000 customers across Europe to use the app, we will make more money. So that was the thinking when we started this project. Now, let's look at what a supermarket actually is. So a supermarket has some stores. They have customers. The customer has an app. They have some distribution. They have some partners. They have a factory where they package goods and then they buy raw materials from a farmer somewhere. So you buy a carrot, it gets packaged, it gets shipped with the truck, it gets put into the supermarket, and somebody buys it and goes home and makes a fine carrot soup. So this customer invited me over and said, help us improve IT. We want to save money, reduce time to market, and become a better supermarket. Now, the IT infrastructure person I spoke with, he did not talk about making this a better supermarket. He was just talking about saving money and reducing time to market. And to me, that's really fluffy. What is that? What is reduced time to market? So I had the conversation with this here guy. He looked at me, he crossed his arms and said, you're the business case guy? Show me your slides. This will be quick. He leaned back and looked at me as if I had the plague or something. He just wanted to save money. Basically, he wanted us to give him discount on the licenses, and then he wanted to reduce the workload. And then he said, and I said, okay, well, everybody wants that. What else are you looking to do with our technology? Well, reduce time to market. And I said, reduce time to market of what? And why do you want to reduce time to market? I went to one of the supermarkets before I came to see the guy, and I could buy carrots, I could buy ice cream, I could pay at the exit. Everything was working. So my question to him was, I can I can go to your supermarket, I can buy stuff, I can pay stuff, I can leave. Everything was working. What are you trying to improve? And he looked at me really confused and said, well, I need to deliver infrastructure faster because they're yelling at me. That was his words. They're yelling at me. And I said, who? Well, the development team. And why? They say I'm too slow. And I said, why are they in such a hurry? And he said, I don't know. And I said, can we go talk to the developers and find out why do they want this infrastructure faster? And he said, no, I don't talk to those people. And I said, okay, Mr. Infrastructure guy, can we please go past development when we go for coffee break and just stick our head through the door and say, hey, you guys, why is it you want your infrastructure faster? And the answer they gave us was that they needed to develop applications faster because that was what they were asked to do. Thinking back to what I said before, whoever has the phone app will buy more stuff in the supermarket. So the development team, they were aware of that they had the link to selling more stuff in the supermarket stores. But the infrastructure guy had no clue that he actually had an impact on the development team. So we spoke to the developers. They had actually several hundred developers, and they were spending around 14% of their time building infrastructure. And I've been a techie. I think infrastructure is fun. But if my job is to build an app so people can find their favorite pizza in the supermarket, then I should be working on that and not playing with cables or waiting for a port opening or something like that. So we looked at it and said, let's look at all the bottlenecks that we have in development and let's see what we can actually improve. And then we ended up doing a calculation and said, what if you had a portal where you could click and then you get your favorite development environment? That's this here portal in the middle. So if you click something here and then you get it, then we can reduce the delivery from maximum 4 months down to minutes. I did this project with a credit card company in the UK some years ago. They came to me and they said, our developers on an average wait 6 months before they can get a new development environment. And they said, we would like to reduce that to 6 weeks. So we designed a better flow, a golden path, so to speak, and they got it down to 6 weeks. They called me back a couple of years later and said, we would like to reduce this to 6 days. And I said, that's a very good idea. Why don't we aim for 6 minutes? And they looked at me and they laughed and they said, that can't be done. They are today at 6 minutes. So if you do any credit card payments and it works, then there's a little bit of me in that. Anyway, so this supermarket chain, they had Deloitte analyze how they were working, and they found out that the average loss of efficiency for their team was around 10%. So if you have 300 developers, then you have a number of hours and a cost, and then you say, well, we can reduce the weight and we can reduce the mess of getting this here development environment delivered. So we can reduce the number of hours. We're looking at them saving almost 45,000 developer hours per year just by getting this golden path implemented, to getting click of a button to get their infrastructure delivered, to get things flowing instead of waiting. Sometimes I meet customers and they say, well, it's okay with the waiting because, you know, if I'm waiting 6 days for a port opening, I'll just work on something else in the meantime. But that's not the truth. The truth is when you're waiting, you're wasting time. You'll be standing by the coffee machine complaining, oh, I didn't get my environment. I'm waiting. Why are we so slow? And if I go to Amazon, I just click and everything is working. And, you know, you stand by the coffee machine, you waste your own time and you waste the time of the people who have to listen to you complaining. So there is a lot of lost time every time there's waiting. So we asked them, what are you going to do? What if we do this? What are you going to do with these 45,000 extra hours? Haha, remove the backlog. Do better long-term planning, which will then again save more hours. Increase employee satisfaction because there was a lot of yelling. Why are you so slow? Why am I waiting for you? Why is the infrastructure not delivering? Everybody was upset because there was this pressure from the business side to deliver and get better and give the customers what they want. And it was stuck in a bad IT loop of things not working. So they also said, okay, we can increase customer satisfaction if we build better apps and release more quickly. They wanted to test AI solutions. They want to release new app functions faster. And now here in the lower right corner, it says win market share. We did a calculation. We moved theoretically 3% of the supermarket share of market in one country because they got so many more users on the app in just one country that the sales increased. They managed to keep Amazon home delivery like a little bit further away. So this was quite a big thing for this company to find out we can actually be a better supermarket if we deliver software faster, if we deliver infrastructure faster, which is then the last bullet here is to improve the brand. So if you save 45,000 hours, it's like getting 30 new colleagues in the development team without paying for them. 30 new developers. Every company I talk to, they're like, oh, we need to find good developers. Wow, you could get 30 new developers just by improving the way you work. So what was the outcome of getting all this extra time? Developers got more time, developers built better applications. They built a new version of the customer application, improved the personalization, better app, better advertising. I know where my favorite pizza is. If you look at the App Store, you will actually find that the Google Play reviews have changed from 3.5 to 4.7 stars, which is huge. And they increased the sale from about 700,000 new application users as they expected, which is here listed as around 40 million euros per year in additional revenue. I think they are today at around 44 to 45 million additional, and I'm tracking the supermarket in their revenue. So compared to their competitors, they are actually still eating market share because they managed to become more customer friendly. Now they did something else, because now all of this on the right side here is what I've spoken about, is to build this application that will give you personalized experience in your app and personalized advertising. But they had some extra time. And out here on the left-hand side, you have procurement, people who buy stuff. That means they're going to the farmers and then they're negotiating the cost of carrots or beef or whatever they're buying from their vendors. They built an app so you could stand with your phone in front of the carrot farmer and say, how much for a ton of carrots? And they would go, oh, 10 euros. And you would go, beep, beep, beep. Ah, I can see your neighbor is selling them for 9.50 euros. And then you can negotiate down the price on the spot. Bad for the farmer. I did not get the final results, but it looks as if this supermarket chain managed to negotiate down a lot of products with an average of 0.5%. And if you look at how supermarkets work, cost of goods is a big thing for them. So if they can take the cost of goods that they're selling and reduce that, you actually make more money, which makes the shareholders and the people inside the company very, very happy. And sometimes you even get a discount as a consumer. But we set out with this company to improve the way they interacted with their customers, hopefully to protect them, hopefully to make more money. And then we ended up with the side effect. We have more time, so we can now also improve other parts of the company. There is one extra little thing, logistics. And this here is not Tanzu. This here is another product from VMware. They had a distribution center where the trucks would come in and then they would get loaded with ice cream and carrots and butter and milk, and then they would take all these goods to the supermarket. Now, you drive in, you back up, you fill the car or the truck with goods, and then you get a printed piece of paper that you go and use for following up on. It goes with the goods. You go to the supermarket, here's all your stuff, and here's your delivery paper. Now, the printer stopped working. The interesting thing is, this was a very busy distribution center on a hot summer day. They had filled up all the trucks and then the printer died. And then they had, so if this here, I'm just going to draw it. So here's the distribution center. You had trucks in all the loading bays all around the building. They were just sitting there waiting for their piece of paper. And as the hours went along, you had trucks waiting in line all the way down the road, up the country road, and then over the next country road, over a little bridge, and then 4.5 kilometers down the highway, you still had trucks waiting in line, waiting for the printer to work. The issue was not the printer. The issue was a hard disk that ran full, which prevented the spooling, which prevented the printer from printing. Now, we did something else with the customer. So we did something to their servers. But again, this was a tiny, tiny IT issue that ended up costing the supermarket about 10 million euros in losses every year, because it happened about 3 times per year that they had a printer that didn't work because a disk ran full. And it's really easy today to set up some kind of virtual storage and make sure that your applications don't crash because they run out of disk space. It is fairly easy to do. So it's one of those things where you go in and you look at the company and you say, what are your bottlenecks? What are your problems? How can we solve things? Where is IT the issue? And those 4.5 kilometers of trucks waiting in a 30 degrees hot summer day, for them, it was really good whenever the printer got working again. And for the supermarket, they invested maybe a couple of million in some storage solution, and they ended up saving about 10 million per year in lost goods. And we'll want to save food. So looking at the supermarket, back to the main story, back to the app. The 40 million in additional revenue was like selling 50 million portions of yogurt. And the funny thing is, I made this translation, and the supermarket guys looked at me and said, "That's funny you're talking yogurt, because we translate everything we do into yogurt, because a portion of yogurt is more or less €1, so it's easy to look at." But I was lucky, I hit the nail on the head, and we had a giggle over yogurt, and they were really happy because they improved their internal efficiencies very, very much. Um, there are other areas where we can help improve if we do a good job as developers. Robert talked about tickets, the service desk. You can't live without it, and then it needs to be fast. If they can't solve things in level 1, then they escalate to level 2, and then things no longer take 15 minutes, but they take 3 days or 5 days or 2 weeks. And God bless you, if they escalate to level 3, now we're looking at 4 weeks resolution time, and that's not good enough. So we need to find out how we can help the whole company become better at what they do. Now we've released a lot of hours for the development team. So the question is, what else can we look at? So from IT, can we help the packaging system? Can we help them be better at packaging the carrots, washing them, putting them into plastic bags so that nothing goes to waste, and we get the carrots out there faster, and we become more cost effective? Central administration, they are always looking for ways to save money. Can we help them integrate data? All this extra developer time we had, could we take that and then grab data from one ERP system and combine it with the procurement system and say, look, I have this data and this data, so where are we going? If we combine these, can we then become a better supermarket? I just spoke a little bit about how we can improve logistics. And then we're looking at digitizing stores. So a couple of my supermarket customers, they're looking at automated sensors on shelves. So if I grab a can of tomatoes or I grab a packet of oatmeal, then central administration immediately gets a notification from the store saying, hey, somebody took tomatoes and oatmeal. Make sure to put tomatoes and oatmeal on the truck so that the shelf doesn't stand empty. So this is, again, next level of digitization, is that we can go in and say, what is happening in the store, putting in some edge computing and say, okay, I feel what's happening. I know what people are buying. Let's make sure the shelves are never empty, because the shelf is empty. You know what you do? You go to the next supermarket and then you buy your stuff there. We don't want that. Now, I've been speaking about supermarkets and private companies and plow manufacturers. I actually had a similar project with a local government, and we were looking at exactly what Robert mentioned before: port openings, and we defined a number of predefined, pre-approved changes, so that instead of calling the service desk, logging a ticket, getting an opening in a port or whatever you needed, get access to some storage, all this was automated. Click of a button. So we tracked over time how much were people actually asking for these things. So the gray line here is what we expected people to do with the old manual system. And then we said, well, let's set up a portal so that you can have self-service and get your own stuff. And as soon as people found out, wow, the self-service portal is actually working, usage grew enormously. And then we did something interesting because we said, okay, so you're a municipality, you're a city hall, you're delivering services to people, to the citizens of your city. What does it mean to them that we now deliver stuff faster in IT? So the blue line here is the time save and the increased efficiency of the people, of the caseworkers, of the people who were actually working in City Hall. So they were saving days every time they had a request, especially we had people who were doing home services, like for elderly people, someone would come over, help them vacuum clean and do some shopping, and they would have their list of to-dos on their phone. But in order for that to work, they needed the app installed, and then we needed a port opening and approval for this here person. So people who needed help from government to do the floors or do some shopping, they were waiting. I'm getting old, I need help. They were waiting for weeks and weeks. What happened when we automated the IT backend was that the people who were delivering the service, they were waiting less, but the citizens of the city, we actually looked at their waiting reduced from about 12 weeks to about 4 weeks for this service to be available to them. So we did a tiny little change in IT with some automation and a self-service portal and rethinking a little bit of how we work inside the IT team. And the outcome was that the citizens of the city actually received better service and better help. So IT made this city a better city to live in, which I find one of the best stories of all the things that I've ever done in IT was, we made a self-service portal, click, automatic port opening. And then I know some elderly person now got access to getting some shopping help and getting some hygiene help and getting help in their own homes. And that's quality of life. And that's what we want to aim for, right? So conclusion of my silly business rambling is trains need good tracks for them to drive, and the golden path is the train tracks we need for becoming better developers. Sanity is what we need, and automation is what we need to become better IT people and better IT departments. And I know I've been speaking yogurt and business and numbers. Deep in my heart, there is CPU pounding, I promise you. Questions?
I actually think there hasn't been any questions, so that must be because you've been so clear in your message. So,
Thank you, Robert.
so, so. Anyway, if there is any questions, then yeah, throw us an email afterwards, and we'll stay on a little bit. So, but for now, thank you for this tour. I hope you like this a bit different than the other webinars today. So, for next week, we will be talking about developer portals, and I promise it will be a lot more technical, but I'll also try to make it simple as well, because that is the goal here, to not lose anybody. So for next time, just for fun, go down and meet some of your developers and tell them to sign up and maybe watch this together, because this is not a developer only or an ops only or anything only. It's a joint venture. And we're all in it together to deliver faster. So actually, a small note. I heard a small quote, and I'm not even sure it's correct, but back when NASA tried to get a man on the moon, the rumor is that John F. Kennedy actually came to NASA and went out and talked to one of the a guy who was mopping the floor, and asked him, "So what do you do?" Because that's what politicians do. They ask to talk to everybody, and his answer was, "I'm putting a man on the moon." And that is, I kind of like that in in your presentation, that it is a common goal, and we can get everybody on board to say, "Hey, we are putting a man on the moon," and pretty smart. So can you take the last one slide?
Absolutely.
So there's a link for the golden path here. I'll also include a few links to. I'll remove Victor from 2 weeks ago. Sorry about that, and replace the contact information with Tor. And if you have any questions, you're also free to reach out to him. I'm sure he's happy to answer, and he can talk about other things than yogurt. And sometimes he has a different view on things. But for now, that is all we had. And I hope to see a lot of you next time with your developers. So thank you, and I'll stop the recording now.